Hi, in this tutorial I will give an overview of the Parallax USB RFID reader. I will give an overview of the hardware, and then I will provide some basic examples in different programming languages like LabVIEW, Python and C#. So here you see an overview of the hardware I'm using in this tutorial. Here you see the RFID reader in an integrated shield. Here you see the USB cable that you need to use in order to connect it to your computer, and USB A to mini B cable. So you have a mini B connector here that you connect to your USB A on your computer. Then you typically need to have some RFID tags. So I have some different RFID tags in different shapes. And these needs to be 125 kilohertz tags in order to make these tags working on this RFID reader from Parallax. So the RFID reader from Parallax is an 28340 RFID reader. It reads 125 kilohertz tags with this EM41000 protocol. You will find more information about the tag reader or the RFID reader at this location. Here you find the data sheet, etc., that you should read carefully in detail before you start using the hardware. So let's start with some basic information. This RFID reader reads passive 125 kilohertz RFID tags, so you need to have one or more of those. This Parallax RFID card reader in this USB version uses this FTDI software in order to communicate with the USB port on your computer. Typically, when you just plug in this RFID reader into the computer, this device will automatically be installed and it will be ready to use. So when you plug it in, typically there will be a green light on the RFID reader. This means it's ready to use, and typically when the module is ready to read RFID tags, the LED will be turned into red. In order to make the device ready to read RFID tags, you need to activate the DTR line of this USB virtual COM port. I will show you how you can do that in a terminal program or in different programming languages like LabVIEW, Python, Visual Studio, etc. So this RFID reader transmits data through this USB virtual COM port driver, which is mentioned here, this FTDI driver that makes sure that you can do serial communication through your USB cable. So the communication for this Parallax USB RFID reader is 8 data bits, no parity, 1 stop bit, and the baud rate is 2400 bits per second. When you read the tag, it will be on 12-byte printable ASCII string that you are receiving from the RFID reader. And as you see here, this 12 byte that you are going to read, there will be a start byte and a stop byte, and all the bytes in between will be the actual tag ID from the unique tag that you put on the reader. So the start byte is just a line feed character, and the stop byte is a carriage return character. And all the information between is the actual tag ID. So when you plug in the USB RFID reader into your computer, and then you should go to Device Manager, and under Ports here the device should pop up here, and if it pops up here it should be ready to use, and then you can start test the device. Typically you want to start testing it using a serial terminal software, and there are lots of different serial terminal software that you can use in order to test the RFID reader. There are some examples are Realterm, YAT, H-term, etc. I will use H-term in this tutorial. You can download it from this web page. And in order to communicate with the Parallax USB RFID reader, you need to set it to be 2400 bits per second for baud rate, 8 data bits on stop bit, and no parity. So let's start using the device and see if we are able to communicate with the reader and read information from different RFID tags. So here you see my RFID reader. I have this USB cable. I just plug it into my computer, and also have different RFID tags that I will use in order to test and demonstrate this RFID reader. So the first thing I will do is to use this H-term. I will set the specific select the specific COM port, baud rate, data bit, stop bit, parity, etc., and then just connect it. And then hopefully I will be able to read different tags using this software. So now I plugged in the RFID reader into my computer. So then I just go to the device manager to make sure it's installed properly. So here is the device manager, which is part of Windows. So then here under ports, I just see here that the RFID reader is connected to COM port number 4. So then it should be up and running. And then you see the FTDI driver is installed properly, and everything seems to be okay. And then you see the driver is installed properly. So then next, now I just have installed this H-term terminal software. So I just search for it and open it. So this is the H-term terminal software that you can use in order to test and configure your RFID device. So then I select COM port 4, the proper baud rate 2400, 8 data bit, 1 stop bit, and no parity. And then I just click connect. Now I'm connected to the device, and as mentioned earlier, I have to activate the DTR. So I just click on this one to activate it. And now I can put a tag close to the reader, and then you see it's able to read tag information and present it here in this H-term terminal software. So then, as remember, it was 12 byte characters. So then I just new line every, so then I can make it more readable. I set 12 here, like this. And then you see I get a unique tag ID on each row. I can also change to hexadecimal, etc., but typically we want to have it in ASCII. So now I can put a new card close to the reader, and then you see it was a new tag ID. I put another tag ID close to the reader, and then you see it is able to read different unique tag IDs from different tag RFID tags I have here on my desktop. And the distance, so typically you need to put the card within 10 centimeters from the reader to be able to read the unique tag ID. So every time I put a new unique tag ID close to the reader, it is actually able to read this unique tag ID. So basically, now I use the H-term in order to make sure that the device is working properly. Next, now it's time to make a real program in a programming language like LabVIEW, Python, Visual Studio and C#. So let's start with some basic Python examples. So in this tutorial I'm using the Tony Python editor. Of course you can use any kind of Python editor, but the Tony editor is very easy to use. So then you see the Python editor here, and here you see the code example. You need to start by importing some libraries, import serial and import time here. Then you need to start the communication with the serial port. So then I use this serial library. I just create an object called ser, and then serial.serial, and then I start or open the communication with the serial port. So I specify the COM port, the baud rate, and I set timeout to be 1 second. And then I just use serial.read, and then I read 12 bytes. And remember, the first byte was a start bit and the last byte was a stop bit, and all the values between was the actual tag ID. Then I just print the response I get from the serial port, and hopefully this will be the unique tag ID. And then finally I just close it. So now I'm just putting a new unique tag or card on top of the reader, and then I just click the run button in order to run the application, and then you see here is the unique tag ID. So then you have this start byte and the stop byte, and then here in between we have this unique tag ID. So now I remove my card, I put a new card on top of the reader. I'll start the program once more, and then you see I get a new unique tag ID like this. So basically this is a very simple application that are reading the tag ID from the serial port. Typically you want to have a while loop or something, so then I have extended my example with a while loop. I just used while true, so this while loop goes for endless until I click the stop button here. But the code is similar. The only thing I have changed here is this while true, and also have added a sleep here. So then inside the while loop I sleep for 1 second before it goes into the while loop once more. So let's just run this example. So now I put a new card on top of the reader, and then you see I remove it and put a new card on the top, and then you see I'm receiving different unique tag IDs here. So then I just put another unique tag ID on top of the reader, and then basically by creating this simple program I'm able to read the unique tag ID from the tag card I put on top of the reader like this. So basically these are some simple Python examples that you can improve and adjust and put into your application. Next I will present a basic LabVIEW application that are able to read this unique tag ID from different tags I have on my desk. So let's start the LabVIEW programming environment and go through this basic example. So now I have opened my default or basic example in LabVIEW. So here is the LabVIEW front panel. This is the graphical user interface. So here I have created a text box where the tag ID should be presented, and also here you see the bytes array. This should be the start byte, stop byte, and then you have all the information in between, which is the unique tag ID. Let's go to Windows and show a block diagram, and here you see the block diagram or the code for this application. So I'm using the Visa a feature in LabVIEW. These are sub-VIs that you can use in order to communicate with a serial port. So you find it here, just right click here and find the functions, and then you go to data communication. So in the data communication palette you have the protocols and you have serial, and then you find all the functions that you need here. You use this, you start with this Visa configure serial port, which is this one. Then you need to have a while loop, and inside the while loop you start reading bytes from the port, and we need to read from the serial port, and we need to read 12 bytes. So the unique tag is 10 bytes, and then we have a start and stop byte. Then you use the Visa read in order to read those values, and then I just remove the start and stop byte, and then just present the unique tag ID here in this text box. And also, just for fun, I'm presenting all the bytes in this array. If there are some error, it will be put into this error information. So basically this is the application. Also, when you click on the stop here, you need to clear and close the communication with the serial port. So you find those here. Here you have the close. So basically this is the LabVIEW application. So let's just start it. So then I just close this one, and then go back to the front panel or the graphical user interface, click on the run button, and now the application should be ready. Now I put a unique tag on top of the reader, and then you see I was able to read a unique tag ID here on the reader. I remove it and then put a new one on top of the reader. And then you see I'm able to actually read unique tag IDs from the RFID reader and present it here in this text box. So basically this is how you can communicate with this Parallax RFID reader using the LabVIEW programming environment. So finally, let's see how we can use Visual Studio and C# in order to communicate with this RFID reader from Parallax, and see if we are able to read unique tag IDs from different tags that we put on top of the reader. So now I have opened my Visual Studio and my basic demo application. So it's very simple. It consists of a text box, a label, and two buttons. One button for initialize the communication with the serial port, and one button for actually reading the unique tag ID that I put on top of the reader. So then let's just start the example and see how it works, and then I will go through the code. So then I just start the application, and now it's running. So now I start by putting a card or a tag, RFID tag, on top of the reader. Then I click on initialize and then read tag, and then the unique tag ID is presented here in this text box. So now I remove it. I put a new unique tag on top of the reader. I click initialize once more and click read tag, and then a new unique tag ID is presented here in this text box. So then I can go further, find a new unique tag, click initialize, and click read, etc. So basically this is this simple application without a loop or anything. I just click initialize here in order to initialize the serial port, and then click read tag in order to read the unique tag ID. So then I just stop it, and let's go through the code in detail. Then you see the code here. So then when I click the initialize button, the first thing I need to do when the application starts, it opens the communication with the serial port. So when I specify COM port 4, the baud rate, no parity, 8 data bit, stop bit 1. So this is I'm just using this system.io.ports.serial port, and then I also need to include this using system.io.ports, and then this method will be available. So then I just use this one in order to start or open the communication with the serial port, and then when I click this initialize button, which you have here, then I will just enable this DTR. So when I enable this DTR, this small LED on the RFID reader will turn from green to red. This indicates it's ready to send this unique tag ID to the computer. So I just start by opening the port, enable DTR here, and then I just have this text box. I just remove the old information I have here when I click on this initialize button. So then I'm ready to click on the read tag ID button, which is here. So then I just create an int of number of bytes to read, which is 12, including the start bit and the stop bit, and the bytes in between, which is the actual tag ID. Then I just set that read timeout of 1000 milliseconds, and then I just start by reading the actual information from the serial port. Then I just need to use some encoding in order to put it into this text box as ASCII characters. Then I just remove the start byte and the stop byte, and then basically all that are left are this unique tag ID. And then when I replace the card and put a new card on top of the reader, I have to initialize it once more and then click read tag. Of course, this is a very basic and simple program which you can extend with more features, including a while loop, a timer, whatever, in order to be able to read continuously new tags that you put on top of the reader. But basically, this is just a very basic example that demonstrates the basic principle of opening a serial port and be able to read from the serial port and get access to this unique tag ID from the tag card that you put on top of the reader. So that's all. So good luck with your Parallax USB RFID reader and creating applications. Either you use Python, LabVIEW, Visual Studio, and the C# programming language. So thank you and goodbye.